Hello, this is Critical Discussions, episode 24. And in this episode, we're going to start by talking quite a lot actually about Belarus and the situation inside that country because unfortunately, I am from that country and I still live here. That's one of the reasons why I never show my face on the streams or in the videos because simply by discussing the things that I'm discussing here, I quite literally sort of already sentenced myself for like, I don't know, 10 years probably in jail, something like that. Just because I'm speaking the truth about the situation in Belarus, around Belarus, Russia, obviously, Russian war in Ukraine, so on and so forth. So, yeah. One thing, just to start it off, sort of softball, as it were, throw a softball. In Lithuania, there is this in Druskininkai, there is this sanatorium called Belarus, that at some point when the war started, stopped working because, or not even when the war started, but in 2020 actually. So after Lukashenko stole the election, after he usurped the power completely, basically the banking sort of accounts were arrested of the sanatorium, and it was sort of kind of halted its operations basically, because apparently there was some kind of a guy who was managing this sanatorium who was directly connected to the Lukashenko's regime. What's interesting is that basically like half a year later, in summer of 2021, the accounts were unblocked basically, and the sanatorium sort of started to take children, people, whatever. However, I just don't understand that, right? Like, again, Lithuania does not sort of issue visas to Belarusians or Russians. They mostly stopped doing this, as far as I know, as far as people report. Yet, the sanatorium which was managed by basically people directly sort of connected to Lukashenko, is allowed to continue its operations because they've changed that like one manager essentially. I don't really understand how that works. Like, yeah, I just don't understand how it works. So what? Like you think you removed like one guy and the rest of the connections basically to dictatorship regime in Belarus ended? I'm not particularly sure that this is the case. Um, yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw it out there because unfortunately, like Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, Poland to a certain extent, do a lot of those like virtue signaling almost. They say how bad like Russians, how bad regular Russians, regular Belarusians, that they sort of allowed the war to happen, all of this stuff. And yet they are absolutely alright to do business with these states. They are buying electricity from a nuclear power plant that is stationed right now at the border of Lithuania. They're buying electricity from Belarus. I know it because I have sources on that nuclear power plant that directly tell me how the ecosystem works really. And yeah, and just like people are okay doing business with the states, but when it comes to people and issuing visas and sort of allowing regular people who are trying to maybe escape these regimes, and ever increasing sort of threat to people's lives inside of Russia and Belarus. Yeah, the Baltic states, they're like, nah, we don't want you. We want money from those regimes. We don't want people. Very hypocritical position, and I fucking hate hypocrites. I've said this many times already during these streams. So just wanted to throw it out there, just so we clear how it's here. Like, so one guy they've changed, the whole sanatorium continues to work. Cool story, bro. All right. It's just like not here nor there, but just wanted to kind of put it out there. All right, usurper and dictator from Belarus called Lukashenko forbid basically people who are working in agriculture to basically forbid firing the people in the agriculture sector without sort of approval of basically higher ups. The head of like I don't know, like Respublikom is such a fucking kind of a Russian Belarusian sort of communist kind of a name. It's the head of a region sort of administration. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. So again, the particular sort of agriculture farm or whatever cannot fire people without approval of the head of the region, basically. Interesting, right? So basically, it is like we're going back to, I don't know, what was it, like 18 something 50 100 Russia with the where people was basically slaves that are working and cannot go anywhere, basically. I mean, I'm exaggerating, obviously, because it's not like really slavery, and if you want, you just leave and like fuck whatever what they can do, like you're gonna find another job somewhere. But essentially, like, if you cannot get out of the job without the approval of some fucking guy sitting who the fuck knows where, who is following basically wherever Lukashenko and his like ministers sending him, wherever decrees or kind of sort of like that, send him. It's remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable. I'm perplexed. I'm really perplexed. Milkmaid. Okay, I didn't know the word. Sorry for that in English. Milkmaids, basically. People are paid around. Well, at least the pay starts at like 550 rubles. Let's say 600, which is $200. $1 right now is 3 Belarusian rubles, and more than half of the vacancies, half of the jobs that are available right now online do not pay even $350, not even 1,000 rubles, less than $350 for that kind of a job. Dirty job, not a pleasant job, and people are not even paid $500. By the way, $500 of an average salary is what Lukashenko promised people back in 2010. And right now, again, if you have milkmaids that's supposed to work for $200, where's the average 500? Minsk is doing fine. Like, some programmers maybe are doing fine. People on the ground who are basically, well, putting food on the table in many cases of other people, milk, agriculture products, meat, things like that. They're paid, again, 200, 300, best case scenario, $500. Not even that. Everywhere from 500, so from basically 300, 200 to $300 salaries for milkmaids, or even like for agricultural workers in general. Veterinarian, some of them are paid more than more than $1,000, but most of them, again, 200, 300, maybe $400 for an animal, for an animal doctor. Very, very rarely they're paid. Just in like 2 or 3 cases, they're paid more than $1,000. And again, like agriculture, literally all the fucking salaries are start basically like at the minimum, $200. That's just, I don't know what to say. For a country that is not particularly advanced, you would think that you would at least invest sort of more in your agriculture, and at least like make sure that people there are sort of making some money and are able to I don't even understand how you can live for $200. I don't know how can you like, I don't know where how can you even pay for like a flat and everything, food, like I guess like forget the fucking internet and shit like that. It's, yeah, I just wanted to throw it out there just so people understand. So not only those people are working for absolute pennies, $200-300, but now they can't even sort of easily change the job if they want to, because there's a deficit. There's a deficit of workforce in that particular area, and no fucking wonder why, right? Like $200-300, who would go there? Elderly ladies, I guess. Elderly ladies and elderly women in, I don't know, 60s or whatever. Because who in their own mind in like 20s whatever would go there and work for $200? Like like if you have absolutely no other prospects whatsoever, then maybe. But yeah, just wanted to again let people know what's the real situation on the ground in Belarus. Now then, from the economy, let's go to sort of more war-related situations. Anti-terrorist drills are held in the Homer region. That was okay. Never mind. That was a long time ago. Okay, I'm tripping. Just the fact that it was even held. Yeah, now I remember that news. Just the fact that it was held is already sort of like, are Belarus in war? What kind of a terrorist drills can be happening? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's actually talk about this one. Over 130,000 tons Lukashenko's regime supplied to Russia. Supplies of ammunition. Belarus Gayun project, who's tracking a lot of sort of railway transportation. They've and just monitoring in general sort of where people are coming, what kind of people are coming, where. It's a pretty good sort of Belarus Gayun project, pretty good project about in particular about Belarus, obviously. So in 13 months, so basically 1 year of war, they've basically supplied Russia with, Belarus supplied Russia with. So the largest number of shells were withdrawn from 33rd Missile and Ammunition Arsenal in Dobrosh railway station, right there, close to Russian border, basically, and down there is Ukraine, obviously. 33,000 tons. 46 missile and ammunition arsenal, 28,000, 25,000 for 1405 artillery base. Quite a lot. I didn't even know that Belarus even got so much ammunition, to be honest. But yeah, apparently. And most of it went to Smolensk or Bryansk, which obviously are two sort of frontline, or like as close to frontline, basically, cities in a basically like a northern sort of well, I guess you could say whatever this you could say, like northeast, I guess, of Ukraine, closer obviously to Kharkiv, not that far away from Kharkiv and Chernigiv, and not that even far away from Kiev, for example. Yeah, it's I didn't know, like, quite honestly, I didn't even catch that this kind of news, and I didn't realize like just how much basically Belarus supplied Russia with in terms of ammunition. And yeah, it's I don't know if like European parliamentarians are paying attention to this. I hope they do, because this is definitely like implicating Belarus in supporting the Russian war against Ukraine. And Belarus should be punished for this. And I'm saying this as a person who is in Belarus. Belarus should be punished this, like the fucking trade should be completely stopped with Belarus. Fucking all the people sort of responsible, all the fucking top people in the parliament, all the top people in this country should be absolutely on all the block lists, and I would even argue most of them should be on international arrest warrant list, because supplying Russia with this fucking with literally things that will kill Ukrainians, this is a war crime to me. I know that like in the international law there is sort of probably another definition of a war crime, but in my opinion it is a war crime, because you're supporting absolutely unprovoked, unjust war, and you are supporting it with ammunition that will be killed, like literally you're not giving like some medical equipment, whatever. You're literally supplying the things that are meant to kill civilians, Ukrainian people who have done nothing to Russia, nothing to Belarus to, you know, to provoke this whole war. So yeah. Anyway. Um This is also something egregious that absolutely pisses me off, that these absolutely despicable pieces of shit that are PMC, it's not PMC, it's not private military company, it's a terrorist organization, Wagner, is now stationed in Belarus. It pisses me to the nth degree, like literally. Like I don't want to we have already a lot of absolutely despicable pieces of shit in Belarus working for police, working for the state. The last thing I want is to see like absolute literal murderers on the territory of Belarus. And yet here they are coming in spades, and now coming even with like an armored personal vehicles and things like that. Armored vehicles. And now seems like, at least again, judging by the reports of Gayun project, there are about 3,000 of them, of the Wagner contractors, Wagner mercenaries. At least 3,000 of them are in Belarus. And as far as I remember, sort of hearing the news, that basically this kind of a village next to are they in Osipovichi, or are they sort of close to the Osipovichi? I don't really remember. But anyway, the amount of people regularly living in that village is like about like 1,500, something like that. And now there are like around 3,000. So like double the amount of the people living there. Now there are this absolutely despicable murderers stationed there. And there are a lot of them, like a lot of sort of how's it called, basically like a tent sort of based system, I guess they've created there. So it's like they're living in tents and shit like that. Sort of like a how you would put it, like actually they started living in tents, but I feel like there are also sort of more solid structures. Although I don't know like for sure if that's the case. Maybe not, because I've heard that Lukashenko basically gave them like some old military kind of a base that wasn't in use anymore. So like these structures that are seen in photos, maybe they're barracks actually, like, sort of solid barracks, because I've seen before that there were just tent based uh, system there set up. Maybe it was like temporary, not really sure. In any case, I'm like fucking absolutely against this, and it's despicable that this is the camp that is stationed now on the territory of Belarus. And yeah. Anyway, yeah, this is the news basically. 350, even more than 3,000 now. Even more than 3,000 now of these pieces of shit. And 11th convoy. There were 10 convoys already that have arrived, and now 11th, like I said, with actual armored vehicles and so on and so forth. Near Sipovich, okay, it was like a Cel village, okay. And Cel in Russian means aim, which is kind of interesting. Aim or a target. And there was a joke I've heard, like this village should be renamed into military target, and then Ukraine can actually bomb the shit out of it. Would be good if they can avoid what's it called, civilian casualties. If they can just bomb the shit out of this whole thing, it would be so amazing. Just like 3,000 of these absolutely pieces of shit murderers, just eradicate them from the earth, from this planet. They're not needed here. Alright, anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The European Parliament calls to issue an arrest warrant for Lukashenko. This is something that I would love to see. Would absolutely love to see. So, Belarus call for international arrest warrant for Lukashenko. Belarus is responsible for damage caused to and crimes committed in Ukraine. MEPs point out, including the regime's role in illegal transfers of children, which did happen, because some children were taken from Ukraine, from the occupied territories, and they were actually transferred to Belarus. I remember I've heard reading the news about it. I've heard about it. The report therefore calls on the EU institutions and member states to take all necessary steps at international level to enable the criminal prosecution of those Belarusian politicians and military leaders responsible for crimes against humanity and genocide. It's just interesting that just bombing the shit out of Ukraine is not really considered crimes against humanity and genocide, but deporting children is considered that. Like, maybe like I'm autistic, maybe I'm like out of touch with reality, but I feel like starting the absolutely unjust war against the country, trying to occupy it, trying to eradicate it, trying to literally kill everyone that you can see in Ukraine, which is exactly what Russia is doing. I think that is already a crime against humanity and a genocide. And yet, deporting children is what got International Criminal Court to issue the arrest warrant for Putin. For Putin and Maria Lvova-Belova, which is just insane to me, but whatever, okay, no here, no there. So with the International Criminal Court, ICC, already having issued arrest warrants for Putin and Lvova-Belova, and peace called on the ICC to consider a similar arrest warrant for Lukashenko. For Alexander Lukashenko, who is the dictator and usurper of Belarus. The Council should also expand the list of Belarusian and Russian individuals sanctioned by the EU, including those involved in forced deportation of Ukrainian children, MEP says. This is brilliant, and I really hope, I really truly hope that this will be the case, that this will actually happen. Because, as we will discuss later, this does affect things. And Putler, that fucking piece of garbage, despite the fact that he's trying to fucking portray himself as this kind of a bravado macho man, he's just a scared piece of shit. And yeah, I'll tell you later basically about it. But anyway, so back to Lukashenko. I would absolutely definitely love this to happen. It's not like he's traveling much anyway, to be honest, but just this whole sort of symbolic gesture is what like should definitely happen, because it should send signal to all the other dictators in this fucking world, including the Chinese piece of shit as well, that shit like that should not fly in 21st century and would not fly. Just like the message itself should matter a lot. And that's just like a little sort of like a banner that people made. Sasha, which is like a short name for Alexander, we bought you a ticket into Hague. That's it would be so amazing to see Lukashenko, Putler, and fucking all of the other pieces of shit who started this war, who murdered people inside their own countries for like all the political prosecution on things like that. Like, it would be so amazing to see all these people in court in Hague and then sentenced to life in jail. Just like, not just somebody like killed them in some drone attack, or no, for them to rot in a fucking jail. And not in some like fancy fucking jail in Hague or whatever. No, to rot in a piece of shit, absolutely garbage cells in like somewhere in like fucking Siberia or something like that. It would be so brilliant. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We can see it happening soon, hopefully. One more news, interesting. I promise it will all tie together basically. Belarus sent an official letter of how do you call it, like basically send a letter of, can I please join BRICS? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, right? Can I please join you so we can be BRICS, I guess, or something like that. Which is just kind of shows you that Belarus like literally left with so little kind of friends on the political sort of arena on the global scale that they would take anything, because their friends right now are Iran, North Korea, Russia. That's it basically. Not even China is doing much in this country anymore. But, and that's that's why I said that this international court arrest warrant on Putin is so important, actually, is that South Africa, despite the fact that like their president, I think, said at one point, not like a week ago or whatever, a couple of weeks ago probably, that that they will sort of take Putin in. So take Putin, I mean like basically allow him to stay right in the country and would not sort of comply with this international arrest warrant. However, later I'm pretty sure they backtracked and they sort of said, please do not send Putin here, send like Lavrov or whatever, who also, by the way, should be on the arrest warrant. I don't understand how he's avoiding that. Diplomat, for fuck's sake. Basically they said like, please don't send Putin here because we will have to comply with the international criminal court. How amazing is that? Like, I'm sure India would also comply. China, not sure. Brazil will probably also comply with the same international warrant for Putin anyway. And so if Lukashenko will be on that list as well of the criminal court arrest warrant, would be brilliant. It would be brilliant. So in the end, even though Putin and Peskov, who's his like spokesperson, said that no, Putin will come and whatever. In the end, no, Putin did not go to South Africa, and instead it's gonna be Lavrov, and Putin will be like a fucking video calling or whatever the fuck. So I'm just saying, like, it's not even a symbolic gesture, but it also means something. It means something for like the international view of people, really, of these not people, of these dictators, murderers, tyrants, pieces of shit. It does matter. And oh boy, like, can you even imagine how much that must like fucking hurt for their like self-indulgence and for their like self-grandiose or thoughts? If another country tells you, no, don't come to us, otherwise we will have to arrest you, do you think Putin actually like enjoyed that particular little thing, that particular little fiasco, you could say? No, he did not. And that's amazing. If you can hurt him in any way possible, it's already a good thing. It's already a brilliant thing. All right. Now then, I reported in a previous episode about more than 240 years for and like basically like 20 years to one person, 10, 12, whatever, for a case where nobody died. They tried to whatever set on fire some house of some cunt, right? That was in Belarus. Russia, same shit. 19 years old lady is sentenced to 6 year in colony for just, this is just the, like I'm saying, those people at least like did something. This one for attempting, for intention to burn like a burn basically, what is it, like a some sort of a thing where they basically Russians were collecting some kind of a fucking help for Russian military, and she wanted to kind of burn that shit. Yeah, so for even attempting that, for intentions, so she didn't do it. She didn't do it, but just for intentions, she got sentenced to 6 years, and maybe even up to 10. So yeah, that just shows like the fucking that how actually dangerous to live in countries of Russia and Belarus, in terms of like you can't say anything, you can't like, especially if you're not talking to like verified people that you know, because anyway. Few quick sort of legislative news from Russia. Russia's constitutional court claims invasion of Ukraine justifies anti-constitutional legislation. Basically saying that the court determined that the operation of the article of administrative code violates like whatever. There was like a little. I'll leave this little report. That the article, the operation of this article during the war, labeled special military operation by Putin and the Russian government, cannot cause doubts in terms of constitutionality, protecting the interests of Russian Federation and its citizens, and maintaining international peace and security. According to the judges, the anti-constitutional article can be applied during military operations. Basically saying that, there is this saying in Russian, "Война все спишет," basically, sort of the war will remove all the debts, basically. And they're kind of doing that. I mean, obviously, like I'm saying it as if it's something new, as if like Russia had work, or Belarus for that matter, had work in courts. They don't. But I just wanted sort of to kind of emphasize it one more time, basically, that Russian court says that we don't care about the law, even though there is no wartime, there is no sort of it's not, there is no wartime law in effect in Russia as of right now. It's a special military operation. So it shouldn't sort of be viewed as if you are at war, and hence you can sort of pause the enactment of legislation and laws, and yet they view it exactly like that, which is, it's understandable because it's Russia, whatever. Supporting the war is now a Russian citizen's constitutional duty. Because basically discrediting the army is basically like a 5 years in jail, because why not, I guess. And so like you can't say anything at all, basically, against Russian army and or against management of Russian army, which is, kind of insane, to be honest. It means, which we'll also, I think, talk about just a little bit later. If you criticize at all Russian army, Putin, Shoigu, like Minister of Defense, what are you defend? I will never fucking get this out of my head. How Ministry of Defense is responsible for offensive war? This is just beyond my comprehension. But if you criticize any of them, you are already deemed basically an extremist, because you're speaking about these issues, and you can get, like I'm saying, like 5, 6, 10 years in jail easily. So there's that. And while we're on topic, exactly about the war, so Girkin, who is a convicted criminal, a convicted terrorist, who is responsible for downing MH17, what was it, Boeing or whatever, a plane basically, Malaysia Airlines flight back in 2014. He is sentenced to life in prison by the court in Hague. He's responsible for the death of almost 300 people just on that plane alone. He himself claims that he is responsible basically for pulling the trigger of the war in Ukraine, because it was him and his like mercenary and like sort of diversions groups and kind of pieces of shit like that who started the separatist movement and actually like brought separatists from Russia to Ukraine, to Donbass region, and supplied them with ammunition. He admitted to all of that. It's not news. Strelkov Girkin, right? He now is jailed because he criticized Kremlin too much. And after Prigozhin's mutiny, now Putin and all of his surrounding is really shitting their pants, because they quickly realized that they're quite defenseless in terms of like sitting in Moscow Because as it turned out, it's not even that hard to get to Moscow. Is as long as you have like 10 to 20,000 people, you can go through large, like you can go through 300 kilometers or thereabout through Russia with all this military equipment and all those personnel. And you, if you actually want, you can probably get to Moscow and capture Putin, capture Shoigu, capture the fucking parliament and all of that stuff. And people, regular people, along the way will cheer those mercenaries who are doing that, not president, whatever. So now they're trying to actually clean the fucking house, as it were. They, I mean, Putin and his mafia. They're trying to clean the house because now they're really afraid of it. However, so basically what I'm saying is this guy who was and is absolutely supporter of the war. He just doesn't want the war to go as it goes. He wants it to be more efficient. He wants to kill even more Ukrainians and so on and so forth, right? So now even he, who have been like, vocal critic of Kremlin for the past year, I think at least, maybe a little bit less, but something like that. He is now also jailed, and he is ex-KGB, ex-FSB, KGB is the same shit. He's an ex-KGB officer, basically, and even he is not exempt from the wrath of Putler and his mafia shit. It's just interesting that, and he's facing up to 20 years of jail for like basically like extremism trial, which is, like I'm saying, like if you criticize the war even slightest, you are like Navalny facing 20 years in jail. You are like Girkin facing 20 years in jail, which is funny because now this piece of shit who wanted, who didn't really understand what Russia is apparently, or maybe he thought like he had some kind of a fucking backing from FSB or whatever the fuck. Now he's gonna face the same consequences as a lot of opposition leaders, or not even leaders like Navalny, but oppositionists, oppositioners. Which is just the irony of it is it's brilliant. It's amazing. I just don't understand why Navalny wants to die on that hill, because Navalny from the jail said that Strelkov was detained illegally. As long as he remains in custody on this ridiculous and obviously politically motivated charge, he's a political prisoner. Technically yes, because this cunt was criticizing army and Putin and Shoigu directly, and this is exactly what got him in jail. But at the same time, he should have been in jail for downing MH17 and killing 300 people, for starting the war in Ukraine and so on and so forth. Like, he should have been in jail a long time ago. And if he's gonna be in jail for this thing, like, on a principle level, I can see what Navalny is saying, but at the same time, dude, like, do you really want to defend this piece of shit? I mean, again, on the principle level, I think you should probably. So on one hand, I kind of have to side with Navalny's sort of position in terms of like how this piece of shit Girkin-Strelkov was jailed. Like, yes, there is a legitimate argument that Navalny is making, and at the same time, like, I'm sorry, like, I cannot sympathize with an actual murderer, with an actual war criminal, with an actual terrorist. I really cannot sympathize and empathize with this piece of shit who should have been in jail already for a long time. So yeah, on principle, Navalny probably is right. Not probably, on principle, he is right, but just from the perspective of just being a human, just understanding all, like, I'm not in the slightest sad that this piece of shit is in jail one way or another now. If this is what got him to jail, criticizing Putin, great, because, like I'm saying, there's a bigger irony here. Because this piece of shit, was thinking that he's building some kind of a mighty strong Russia that is gonna be fucking over neighbors and subjugating people left and right and destroying everything instead of creating things, right? Like, and now he is, you know, what's the saying? Now he's, oh my god, the saying is escaping me. What's the word? Oh my god. Sowing the oh my god, sowing the rough, whatever the fucking saying is, basically. Um, you get what you deserved, right? Like, what goes around comes around. There's a better saying. Oh my god, it's escaping me. Whatever. Anyway, let's go from this piece of shit to something else. Now, that's an old news, but this is a piece of shit. This is basically one of the biggest propagandists on Russian TV, in Russian media in general, Vladimir Solovyov. And that piece of shit apparently has a secret family, 2 children born in the United States. Will United States ever take some measures against those people? I don't know. Svetlana Abrosimova and 2 daughters, Maria and Margarita. Will they be in any way kind of limited, punished, whatever it may be? Will their assets be frozen in the United States? Their, or whatever, like, I'm not sure, like, if they can be arrested, but at least like their assets arrested, things like that, because obviously all those money came from Russian government and yeah, from this piece of shit. Probably not, at least judging by by the amount of investigations Navalny's team FBK has done it over the years, and comparing it against the list of people who were in fact blocked in any way, shape or form by EU, UK or USA, which is like very, very much lagging behind the amount of people who are under sanctions compared to this list. And Navalny and his team was talking about it since like 2014 or so, that here's a list of like 5,000-6,000 people, and back then it was probably lower. They were talking to European parliament, whatever, PMs, basically, and there was nothing done about it. Only now, when the war has started, because it was said, deemed like, oh, like it's illegal, we can't really do it, can you really prove it, blah blah blah. They were giving them all these documents, and Europeans were doing nothing. Now suddenly, when the war started, like suddenly it's not a problem anymore. It was always about a political will to do it, actually. Now when the war has started, like, yeah, okay, now we can block them, all right. Before, like, it's just so despicable that those like fucking politicians, they're doing these dirty games all the time instead of following some kind of a code of honor, to be honest. Like, I just don't get it. I would never be able to be a politician. That's just whatever. Okay, I'm just saying, like, so this is the biggest proponent of the war in Ukraine. He is one of the biggest propagandists on the TV, in Russian media just in general, and he's got a fucking family and kids that are born in United States and are United States citizens. Amazing. Like I'm saying, regular Russians are completely fucked. They can't even get a visa to get out of the country, to escape the draft, to escape the fucking dire situation there. And these pieces of shit can live their lives happily ever after in those countries, who they on the TV say, oh, piece of shit, garbage, blah blah blah. Let's fucking nuke them all while their kids are there. It's like, brilliant. Same shit about Putler. There's a giant sort of article from this project media, essentially. Putin secretly gave land near his residence to his daughters and ex-wife. And in a previous episode, I was talking how Putin and his new lover, like Alina Kabaeva, who's a gymnast, right? Who have like they've built basically on a national park land essentially that should be like restricted from things like that. They've basically expropriated that land for themselves and built like enormous mansions on the lakes. I showed you that in a previous episode. Go check it out. I'll include the link in the description below. But Putin doesn't forget about his old wife, ex-wife, and also daughters, because he also gave them quite a fucking giant residences. Like it's literally like residences, because they're fucking enormous. They're enormous, and what I want to show you, I will include the links to all of it in the description as usual. There's going to be all the information, all the articles that you should read. This one, unfortunately, is just in Russian language. It's a giant article. It's just in Russian. If you put it into Google Translate, it will translate pretty well, actually. So if you want, please do it. And on YouTube, like I showed you before, if you can select subtitles and then translate them, auto-translate to English, for example, it will work pretty well. So, check it out. And there's documents, everything. Like, there are still like independent media in Russia. They're not in Russia, but there are still independent media, independent journalism in Russian language, who are investigating the corruption, Putin, and all of his fucking mafia ties, basically. Mafia circle. What was I going? Oh, yeah. So I was going try to just take a look at all of this. But what I wanted to show you is that some few months ago at this point, I think, there were a few drones that were flying towards the territory of, guess what? I didn't understand at that point, because I'm not like particularly sort of, how to put it, familiar with like geography or of what they call it, like a Tsar village, basically. It's like a I mean, that's a sort of old thing basically in St. Petersburg, but so okay, I'm not gonna fucking search it right now. But that's like proverbial sort of way to say like Tsar village is like where Putin basically builds his own like residences, his mansions, and so on and so forth. So what distance from Tsar village the drones attacked? 8 kilometers, 6.5, 4, and that's the Tsar village of Vladimir Putin. You can clearly see where Ukraine was aiming. And that's why I absolutely love what Ukrainians are doing in terms of those like drone attacks on Moscow, for example, which I'm gonna talk just in a few seconds, because what Ukrainians are doing, yes, maybe they're not like successful in it as of right now anyway, fingers crossed once again, but they're clearly aiming their drones wherever they can, wherever ammunition they can send to Russia. They're clearly aiming either at absolutely like the military sort of objects, like a military base or like a sort of a depot with ammo, things like that, or they're clearly trying anyway to reach Putin, Shoigu, pieces of shit like that, especially Putin, or like KGB, FSB sort of buildings, things like that. They're clearly aiming at those who started the war, at those who are responsible for the war, at those pieces of shit who, frankly, 90% of Russians would also gladly see dead. That's why it's like I'm applauding them. I'm applauding their fucking courage, Ukrainian courage, and I'm applauding what they're trying to do. I wish them all the fucking best luck to actually succeed it. To actually succeed at actually fucking targeting Putin, in fucking one of his residences, it would be, well, okay, at least like hitting the residency would be great. Putin, I want to see in Hague facing fucking lifetime sentence, like I've said before. Anyway, okay, let's go to the next one. Since we've been talking right now about the drone strikes and whatnot, let's quickly talk about first of all drone strikes, not even drone strikes, missile strikes on Odessa, which is absolutely despicable, and it started to happen basically after Russia basically exited the grain deal, and they immediately started to bomb Odessa. 19 missiles were sent onto the city. So Russia always, like, there's this word kitsch, like poses as if they are so much sort of for the traditional values, for the God and Orthodox Church and whatnot. And what did they build? What did they bomb? A goddamn fucking church. And this is just so sort of telling and so on brand with Russia, saying one thing and then doing sort of the absolutely sort of 180. Absolutely 180. And I think, yeah, in 1930s, Soviets blew up the Spaso-Preobrazhensky Собor. Is it Собor? Some cathedral, yeah, in Odessa. In 2023, it is again ruined because of Russia. That's just like, I mean, it's telling. It's telling. It says something about Russia if they're using the missiles that are so like imprecise. They're just shit country that can't even produce fucking missiles, and which is, I know that this is exactly what they wanted. They just want to terrorize people. Well, they're garbage. They're just, I mean, again, like I'm not like super about like, you know, protecting all this religious shit and everything like that, but it is telling that this is exactly what they're doing. This is exactly what they have been doing. Yeah. It's just despicable. There were some photos from the inside of the building. Yeah, these ones. It's just sad. I mean, like, on one hand, again, like I don't really like the organized religion, things like that, but at the same time, it is sad to see sort of this beauty being ruined. I think nobody died. I think like 20 or so people got injured, or maybe one person died. I don't remember really. But fact of the matter, oh yeah, this photo was just something. Just like complete ruins. And that's you know, Russia who's boasting that they are so like God loving and whatnot fucking country. And obviously, you know, they've also hit other buildings, civilian buildings. It's and this is such a beautiful city. It's, yeah, unfortunately one people died and 19 got injured. It's just despicable. I mean, obviously, like, it's this kind of a cathedral, and so it sort of brings a little bit more attention, I guess, than just a regular city or whatnot, especially because it is UNESCO protected object, right? And so it's interesting that UNESCO didn't even, I don't think UNESCO sort of criticized anything. I don't, what did UNESCO actually like criticize the war in general? I don't remember, but yeah, I've seen like on Twitter basically people saying like, UNESCO, so where are your responses? What the fuck? Um, yeah, yeah. Overall, in the historical center of Odessa, which is under protection of UNESCO, at least like 25 architectural monuments, memorials are damaged already. Yeah, it's. I'm just saying, like, it's. I mean, obviously, like, it's nothing compared. It's just like pieces of granite, wherever, compared to human lives. And obviously, all the time, the human life should be a priority without a doubt, even when talking about it. Um, so, but just in addition to that, it's rare, obviously, to see sort of beautiful things like that even being created right now. It's kind of a more of relics of the past time, and so it's a little bit sad to see these kind of beautiful things without, like, whatever I'm thinking about religion and things like that. But no doubt that it's beautiful things right there, beautiful in terms of architecture and in terms of, like, just like paintings and murals and all those things, and that being, like, destroyed. It's pretty unfortunate to see. So yeah. Now then, an interesting news that Gosduma, which is Russian parliament essentially, said that, and they announced actually already, the exit of Russia from WHO, World Health Organization. That's like, I I don't even know, like, how to, like, describe this news. Like, Ministry of Health of Russia does not support this idea of exiting WHO, um, because obviously, like, WHO and sort of and ministries of health of each country, of other various countries, right? They share knowledge. They share knowledge about pandemics, epidemics. They share knowledge about certain, whatever it might be, like drugs, or how to prevent certain things. They share some, like, it might be like test results or just protocols and things like that, right? Like, so obviously, like, exiting such a big sort of such a big organization, it's gonna affect negatively, obviously, Russian health industry. And since it's not in the best spot anyway, I don't even want to think, like, if they actually do this, and they might, because they are absolutely brain dead. It's like there are no smart people in Russian or Belarusian governments, and I will say it exactly like that. There are no smart people there, and yeah, they might absolutely do it, because yeah, they're just pieces of garbage. They're trash human beings, almost all of them there. I would say all of them there. But yeah, how it will affect regular Russians, regular humans in 5 years, I don't even want to think about it. Russia is gonna become, if it even will still continue as this giant country, which I hope it will not. Like I've said many times before, I hope it will absolutely break apart into whatever 10, 15 different countries, as it should be, as it should have been, thanks to the West. It should have collapsed as USSR was collapsing, but the West helped it to support itself, not support itself, helped to support that shit show of a fucking federation. But if it will not collapse into different countries, it's gonna be fucking, I don't know, Central African Republic. No offense to Central African Republican people. Yeah. Anyway, let's quickly talk about the grain deal, right? So Russia understands the concerns of African countries over the grain, because obviously African countries are, like, we're receiving a lot of that grain actually. big portion of it. Not sure what exactly in terms of percentage, but big portion. And now with this sort of not hiatus, but not with just this uncertainty about what is going on, because Russia obviously, after exiting this grain deal, they've started to bomb the grain storage facilities in sort of in Odessa, in ports of Odessa, for example. 60,000 tons of grain destroyed in Odessa attack. This is what just happened recently, right? And now African countries are obviously concerned, right? And so see, like I'm saying, this whole episode, it all ties together, because that should have been this like BRICS meeting, or like Russian African meeting summit in South Africa. However, Kenya said that this is a knife in the back, basically, the exiting of Moscow from the grain deal. And at least two countries sort of directly said that we are not pleased. Egypt and Kenya, for example, said that we're absolutely displeased with Russia's decision, right? And again, one more one more little thing is that I don't know if it's like so basically. So there should have been also summit like Russia, Africa, and 38 of 54 countries of Africa did not send their leaders to the summit. That will happen 27, 28 of July. So 17 countries will send the presidents, basically, and 10 prime ministers, basically, and then the 17 other vice prime ministers, ministers, or just consuls, essentially. And 5 African countries completely skipped this sort of summit. But again, sort of just like, again, not to denigrate Africa or anything like that, or African countries. And I understand there are many countries that are different. Ones are better and other are worse, so on and so forth. But what I'm trying to say is that during the Cold War, it was United States versus USSR, two superpowers, right? One of the superpowers was, as we call, a колосс на глиняных ногах, what a colossus on clay legs, essentially, right? I hope there is the same saying in English. I think there is. Colossus on a clay legs, which was USSR, obviously, that completely collapsed under its own weight because they couldn't produce anything for the consumers, while they were absolutely wasting resources on creating this like war arsenal. Right now, 2023, Russia thought that they are so amazing, so mighty, that they can capture Ukraine and so on and so forth, right? Start this absolutely insane war, right? Like, what's the outcome would be, whatever. Okay, like, I'm not even going there. The thing of the fact of the matter is that right now, like I've mentioned again, it all ties together. What I said before about the Belarus and their friends. Well, how many friends Russia has? Belarus, Iran, North Korea, to a degree, maybe China, but not a friend at all. It's not even a frenemy. They're just extracting everything they can in terms of like natural resources at absolutely insane discounts from Russia without really giving too much to them. And now Russia, instead of like having projects and conferences and sort of developing technologies and whatnot with developed countries. Again, no offense to African countries, but I think everybody understands they're not developed countries. They're developing, maybe, not developed for sure. So Russia, instead of being friends with like South Korea, Japan, freaking Germany, UK, USA, Canada, like with developed nations, they're scrambling to invite African leaders, again, no offense to African leaders, but that's not the top of the cream of the sort of political leadership of the world. That just shows you just how much of a just scumbag this piece of shit on the screen. That 2/3 of presidents, of leaders of Africa decided they would not visit this piece of shit. I mean, I'm frankly astonished that some of them even decided to go. Like, I guess, like, Russia still does something in certain African countries that they think that they owe something to this piece of shit. I think this actual initiative is the best one. Ghana invited Russia to grow marijuana together. That's a good fucking, that's like, Ghana is doing something great. And last week I'm laughing, but like, that's actually pretty decent. Last week authorities of Ghana legalized marijuana for pharmaceutical implementation, basically for pharmaceutical use. I don't know if this is actually like for the use in the territory, or like on the territory of Ghana, or is it just like for export? I'm not sure, but this is something I can absolutely stand behind. This is a really good initiative, and if Ghana will be doing this with coordination with Russia, I'm all for it. Go for it, do that. It's just like a little bit, shameful that it is in Russia, marijuana. It's in the list, one list of what's it called? Like oh my god, forbidden substances. Legalizing marijuana is also like for legalizing marijuana also was Vladimir Zelensky was talking about it. That would be pretty good actually. It's been already sort of shown so many times that almost all of the effects of cannabis are positive. Almost all of them are positive, almost all of the time. So frankly, like, amidst all of the shitty news that I'm talking usually on these shows, in these streams, and in these videos, I think this is one news that a lot of people can stand behind, probably. And those who think still that this is some kind of a fucking devil drug, they're brain dead people who have never learned any research, who've never tried it themselves, probably, who just hear stupid alcohol fucking propaganda lobby. Yeah, and anyway, okay, at least one fun news. Okay, now important thing from Russian lawmakers says that it smells like a major war, as if after more than 515 days, more than this, of war, they didn't understand this. Russian lawmakers rushed for amendments to increase troop numbers. So basically, Russia was was promising that they're going to change their drafting mobilization sort of law. Wanted to increase lower age from 18 to 21 and upper from 27 to 30. Now, and I kid you not, this is so absurd. Like, I don't understand who they, like, what kind of the target audience. They literally said, like, some of the lawmakers said that, oh, like, so many young men send us letters asking, please do not like raise lower age from 18 to 21, because we, presumably right now like 17 years old, really want to go and die for you. Well, they didn't say die for you, but which is absolutely remarkable amount of bullshit, given the fact that actually in the previous law that Russia wanted to pass, or at least the draft that was sort of announced, there was a clause that said basically that if you actually want, as an 18 years old, if you really want, so sort of from your own volition, you can go and join army. So it's not necessary even to, again, it's not necessary to not raise this from 18 to 21, because still, like, or rather, it's not necessary right now to leave it at 18, because if you had raised it to 21, people who wanted to join the army, they could. Now, Russian lawmakers, Russia, again, fucked over their own people. Who would have thought this will happen? So, quickly, the maximum conscription age will be raised from 2070. What the fuck? Okay, so let's start again. Maximum conscription age will be raised from 27 to 30. The minimum age will remain at 18. Russians who are drafted during mobilization drives or conscripted for military service will be prohibited from leaving the country from the time they receive draft notices, summons. When the country's digital register of military summons begins operating, conscripts and draftees will be banned from going abroad from the moment their summons appears online, despite earlier legislation providing for a 7-day window before summons was to be considered served. So, which is what is interesting is that previously in the laws was that basically you need to receive, and I'm pretty sure in Belarus it is still like that. You need to receive, and not somebody else for you can receive it. You, as a person whose this like draft notice is addressed to, you must receive it. You must sign it that you've received it, and then it can be marked as, delivered. Now, what Russia is trying to do, they are trying to create this online catalog of all the men of the conscript age, and then they can just send it to this like governmental system, like basically government online. And if people didn't check it, they might not even know that they've got served this draft notice, this summons. And regardless of that, like, they checked it, they didn't check it, nobody cares in the government if a person even knows that they've got served this shit. It's just insane, to be honest. So now it's sort of on an individual, up to individual, to actually check what's going on with this kind of a draft situation. Also, the fines for failing to report to a recruitment office after receiving a summons will increase from about $100 to $300, whereas before they ranged from like 5 to 30. Right, then regional governors will now be allowed to create paramilitary companies at Putin's request. That I really don't understand exactly. I need to read more about it. I mean, this is probably like in response to Prigozhin's mutiny, when they've noticed that nobody actually, from the military personnel, nobody actually stood up against Prigozhin's Wagner's group. And so apparently Putin sort of now will allow sort of governors to create their own sort of small little Wagner's groups, so to speak. That's kind of my understanding, and again, haven't read nothing about it yet. Why Putin might sort of kind of treat sort of regional governors better than Wagner, to kind of trust them more, is because Putin is the one who actually appoints governors, and he's the one who's responsible for giving them money, to them and to their regions. So I think he feels like he's got like more control over them, and because he appoints like kind of just despicable pieces of shit who just will be stealing stuff and not doing much. I guess he kind of thinks that they owe him a lot. I don't know. Medical and educational organizations will now be required to provide recruitment offices with all of the information about citizens deemed necessary for military record keeping, and defense ministry will be allowed to sign short-term contracts with conscripts and reserve soldiers for periods lasting from several months to a year. So yeah, Russia is really preparing for either a second wave of mobilization or something akin to that. And yeah, I think it's a good time right now if you are a man in Russia, to maybe exit Russia before you can actually do this. Because once you get served this thing, you will be banned from going abroad. And so at the border, either you have to cross illegally the border, or you will be just taken from the border straight to like a recruitment office and then straight to war, essentially. That's pretty scary time. I must say. All right. One quick news. EU announces ban on battlefield equipment and aviation part exports to Belarus. The EU on Wednesday agreed to ban exports of battlefield equipment and aviation parts to Belarus, expanding sanctions on Russian ally for its involvement in Russia's war against Ukraine. Spain, the current holder of the EU's rotating chair, sent a post on social media that the new sanctions were a response to the situation in Belarus and the involvement of Belarus in the Russian aggression against Ukraine. Lithuania's EU ambassador Arnoldas Prankevicius posted that the embargo covered dual-use battlefield and aviation goods, as well as a blacklist of individuals. Reuters reports the decision must still be finalized, and it will take effect if none of the bloc 27 member states raise last-minute objection by Friday. Which Hungary, somebody fucking like Hungary can do it probably. Fucking always a shit show with that. I'm just perplexed, like how there are still some experts to Belarus of battlefield equipment and aviation parts still after so many months of war. I just frankly, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just shocked that it's still even happening right now, but whatever. You know what? Let's just quickly just talk about this news that it's already sort of a little bit of an old news. Well, not really, but couple weeks old. That once again Ukrainians have damaged the Russian Kerch sort of bridge over the Crimea to Crimea, right? Kerch Strait bridge, and as you can see on this image, the like the section of the road actually kind of got, because obviously those roads they consist of like these blocks basically of like, I don't know how many meters it would be, like maybe 20 meters or so of these like sections. And so the one maybe even this is two sections, whatever it may be. And so like the Ukrainian sort of on water drone, like or yeah, it was kind of a, I don't know, I think you can think of it as like a jet ski kind of a thing, of those, those like water motorcycles kind of a thing. It kind of flew, not flew. It what is the what do you do on water? What am I? Oh my god, I'm losing my mind. Sailed. Is it? Oh yeah, but it doesn't have sails. Anyway, whatever. It got to this on water underneath this section of the bridge, and it actually damaged it on the right section. But if you look closely, I don't know, can I like increase the image size of this thing? Yeah, I can. Okay. yeah, you can see closely. If you can see closely, if you're looking at the, if you're just listening this, there is a YouTube video. Please check it out. This section is completely off the support structures, so it needs to be replaced. But also, if you take a look at the left, so right section is completely needs to be replaced. But if you look at the left section, it is also damaged. And if you kind of connect the lines that go on the left side and the right side of the left line, you see it's also not aligned. So it's also of the support structures, not as drastically as the right section, but it also probably needs to be replaced. So I've seen that Russians are slowly using the left lane for like traffic, right? But I'm pretty sure like nothing too heavy probably will go there right now, because it might like cause the further damage or even collapse. So that's a really good sort of use of this like attacked like water drone essentially, because with just one kind of drone and without like casualties in terms of like humans, because last time they made this like huge explosion on this Crimea bridge. There was at least a couple people in the car that died, and at least one person in the truck that was the driver of the truck, the truck that blew up, who died. And I still don't know the exact details. Was that man aware of what kind of cargo he is transporting or not? If he wasn't aware and Ukraine just used that person to essentially blow up the bridge, and he didn't know it, and they essentially killed innocent civilian, like the casualties on the bridge is one thing, but if they intentionally knew that this driver will die and they sent him to death, I still fucking condone it. I think it's despicable. I don't know the details. Once again, I hope at a certain point, maybe in a year or so, we will know more about it. But this time I think nobody really died. They used this like above water drone, and it did the job absolutely perfectly fine. This is a great way to do it, I think, and seems like Ukraine can now do it like more often. It seems like they're kind of getting, I think, into the groove of things with this Crimea bridge, because Crimea bridge is obviously the big sort of Putin's kind of a proud moment, and now they're tearing apart. They're just smacking that cunt in the face with these attacks, and this is amazing. And this is exactly like after this explosion of the new explosion. Right after that, Putin said he exits the grain deal. I'm pretty sure this is the timeline of events. So he got so pissed that he actually decided to close the grain deal. However, and this is something that I kind of wanted to quickly talk about the grain deal, because I don't like really understand, because the grain deal was essentially struck between Ukraine and Turkey, and then Turkey and Russia under sort of UN overseeing, something like that. And frankly, I've heard that President of Ukraine said that essentially we can continue the deal without Russia, because it was Turkey who guaranteed us the safety of transporting the grain through the Black Sea. And what Turkey does with Russia is not our concern. And so now it's Turkey's problem. How to deal with Russia, essentially. So we will see, actually. We will actually see what Turkey can do, what Recep Erdogan, what he essentially can provide in terms of like actually sort of fulfilling his obligations, right? But yeah, if not, Ukraine already said that essentially any vehicles, basically vessels, sorry, not vehicles, any vessels in the Black Sea are a legitimate military target, or they said like the vessels that are sort of heading towards the Russian ports or like near Russian ports or near Crimean ports, they are essentially a legitimate military target, which I agree with them, to be honest. So good on them. I think they're gonna be fine, absolutely fine. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to mention this because that was kind of a big news, 17th of July. Yeah, it would be a shame to not mention this. Now then, just a quick economic note. Russia loses record $250 billion in wartime capital flight. A record of $253 billion has been pulled out of Russia since the start of its full-scale war with Ukraine. Russian central bank has said. So it's not even some, journalists are trying to report it, right? Like, no, it is Russian central bank. Net inflows of current transactions and net outflows have reached unprecedented levels. Almost 240 billions were taken out of Russia last year, including 13 billion of pre-invasion month of January. So somebody who knew that this is coming already like thought, okay, you know what, we're gonna try to take our assets, money, whatever. So the rate of capital flight relative to GDP, 13%. So think about it, breaking the previous record of 11% seen during the 2008 global financial crisis and after annexation of Crimea in 2014. The average rate of capital outflow over the previous 13 years stood up at 5%, and now it's triple that basically. So to those who think that sanctions don't work, who those to think that this doesn't really affect Russia, imagine being hit almost 15% of GDP, 13% of GDP. There's just like money taken out of the economy essentially. 13%. That's not nothing. And that's a fucking, and then this will have serious consequences long term, obviously. So think of it what you will, but you know what I mean? Like, this is not nothing whatsoever. This is pretty substantial, 100%. And also on that note, oh my god, I had that little news that basically Russians during the I don't have it right now. Basically, Russians during the Prigozhin's mutiny took out from the ATM machines, from the bankomats as they call here, from ATMs, $1 billion. $1 billion. Russians during the mutiny, which was like 2 days on a weekend. During that time, Russians have thought like, okay, you know what? We don't know what's gonna happen next. We got a better. This is just to prove a point that Russians don't trust their government. They don't really love their government whatsoever. It's just like for criticizing it, like I said before, you can go to jail for like 6 years or 10 years or even 20 years. You know what I mean? They're just, a lot of them are completely, scared of even saying anything. But actions speak louder than words, don't they? So as it started, everybody thought, okay, you know what? We got to better go and get our money before some banks will collapse or whatever, and we are going to be left in the same position as when the USSR collapsed, when everything that people were storing basically got absolutely burned to the ether. Okay. Putin signed a decree that basically states that brewery company Baltica and also Danone are basically expropriated by Russian government essentially. So I know things like that have happened. Similar things have happened, like in Germany when they sort of took control over their like gas, I think, and oil of like Russian counter Gazprom sort of counterpart. But that's kind of a more, I would say, sort of more like strategically trying to control sort of the energy. So it feels like, plus fucking Russia blew up Nord Stream, so like whatever. And here it's more of a kind of a Russia just does it kind of out of spite, I would say, because like, oh, so you are like European companies who are sanctioning us, whatever. You are, well, companies don't sanction, but the governments of Europe sanction us. Okay, you know what? We're gonna take your assets in Russia. We're gonna, yeah, just take your assets basically. Before that, it was Finnish consortium, Finnish basically company Fortum, which was biggest foreign investor in Russian electro energy market. And now it's Danone, and now it's Carlsberg's Baltica beer brewery, and I think there were a couple more. I'm just like, I don't have it right now. I'm pretty sure after that or before that there were a couple more companies that were also essentially seized by Russia. And again, like I've talked about it before, like Putin doesn't think whatsoever. That's just a statement. And then he doesn't think about the long-term consequences. He lives in one day. I survived for one day. That's amazing. Tomorrow we're going to deal with the problems that come tomorrow. Because if you are seizing the company's assets, who do you think is going to come and invest in you long-term? If everybody sees that you are absolutely unstable country. You don't control the power because apparently 20,000 some fucking terrorists and absolutely despicable murderers can actually like shake your regime at least a little bit. And then you're expropriating assets of foreign companies on a whim essentially, just to spite others. Who is gonna fucking come and invest into you? Nobody. That's the answer. Nobody. And you can have as many conversations with North Korea and Iran and China and fucking African countries, but they're not gonna come and invest into you. Even the thing about the Chinese, that Russia were supposed to build like an airplane with Chinese, that project got scraped because Chinese don't want to do anything with these pieces of shit country. And while Shoigu is coming to North Korea to for like a parade or something like that. To what is it? To straighten military connections. it's just like, yeah. Okay, I've had a few more news, but I think it's enough. One good news, I think. Let's end it. Klitschko, who is a famous, obviously, boxer, but is also right now a major mayor of Kiev, said that Kiev bought 113 flats for temporary settlement of relocated people, basically from the territories that are under shelling, so on and so forth, right? So 110 families are in need, basically right now, in need for some kind of shelter, essentially, for some kind of a flat. And 113 flats Kiev bought already, and 37 of flats already are sort of renovated, decorated, whatever, and now people can actually live there. And this is great news, and I just wanted to essentially end on this, because this is not enough, obviously, because after the start of full-scale Russian invasion, there are 266,000 people who are like temporarily relocated to Kiev. They're registered, right? Maybe there are even more people because, you know, some people maybe not registered. And since 2014, now in Kiev there are almost 400,000 people who are registered as this like temporarily relocated personnel, VPL as they call them. And so yeah, about 15,000 of them are people with some kind of form of oh my god, it was disabilities, yeah, because in Russian it's called invalidность, but invalid in English sounds pretty harsh, but that's how it's called, disabilities, yeah. And about 65,000 are people, pensioners essentially. But this is a good news because, you know, at least some people can now have at least some kind of a decent life, you know what I mean? And this is just good that that the city is doing this. The city is trying to help their people. Yeah, just wanted to end on this because I think it's really important to, first of all, to not forget that it's all about the people and about the people whose lives are ruined, who had to relocate. Luckily, you know, stayed alive, and that's already really great. But yeah, it's just let's just never forget that, you know, this is real life. This is real war. This is not just some sort of a fucking TV series or whatever. This is, yeah, lives of real people. And so when good deeds like this are being done by the government, by the city of Kiev, that's always appreciated, I think. Should be appreciated anyway. Okay. All right, I think we're going to end here. I will include, as usual, all the links in the description of YouTube video, all the links that you might want to check out. Yeah, please subscribe. Subscribe on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube, criticaldiscussions.net. There are all the links, all the necessary links. If you can donate something, please, I would highly appreciate it because, like I've mentioned many times before, I'm still stuck in Belarus. The incomes are barely to survive, almost non-existent, and so any tip helps, any little donation helps, and I would highly appreciate you sharing it. I'll try, like I've mentioned before, but I haven't done it yet. We'll be doing soon this week. I'll be trying to post more on TikTok, so if you can, please follow on TikTok as well, because YouTube's algorithms do not promote videos whatsoever. And so if you can actually promote some of the videos, I would highly appreciate it. Yeah, essentially that. Essentially that. Does the website work? Should, right? It's not particularly fast website, I'll admit, but give it a second. Yeah. So essentially, if you can donate just something, that's already helping. And again, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter. I should add threads, to be honest, but if you follow Instagram, there should be link to threads. And yeah. Again, thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one. Please take care of yourselves, and yeah, donate to Ukraine, to the ZSU, United 24, all that kind of stuff. They need it 100%. And yeah, if you have a few spare dollars, whatever, if you can sign up for like a monthly, whatever, $5-10 on coffee, or buy me a coffee or Ko-Fi, would be highly appreciated. And yeah. Okay, take care, guys. Till the next one. Those Critical Discussions 24.